Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Elliot here from MovieFiles, giving you all my out-of-theater reaction, my non-spoiler review of Wicked for Good. I am here to give you my thoughts, my unfiltered, honest opinion about this film. But before we get into those thoughts, do me a favor. If you clicked on this video, thank you so much. If you could hit the like button, share this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and consider subscribing, I would greatly appreciate it. So, Wicked 2024 was a film that I thought was really solid, if I'm being honest. I didn't love it, but I certainly didn't hate it. I was someone that was impressed by the performances. I was someone that was actually really invested in the story, and I love the musical numbers. As someone that's not even a musical person, I really enjoyed the musical numbers. You know, what is it, Defying Gravity and Popular. Like, I had fun with that film. Again, didn't love it, but was pretty quite surprised by how much I ended up enjoying it. Going into this one, I had heard some of the, about a month and a half ago, it was like a curated screening for influencers and journalists and critics who were praising this film as the greatest thing on earth. And then they had a couple fan screenings in the coming weeks leading up to the release, and a lot of those were, a lot of hyperbole, great, this, that, and the other. It's the best thing since The Godfather 2. And then last night, I'm recording this on Tuesday, I was able to see it in a little bit in advance. I know last night was the premiere, and you heard a little bit more mixed positives in the mix. But now I'm here to share my thoughts. I want to start off by saying, I said this in my initial reaction at it, immediately seeing it, and I thought about it a little bit after recording that video. And I mean this. I am so happy that people can have a film, have a book, a graphic novel, anything that makes people happy makes me happy. And the joy that I saw in tonight's screening, was a mix of critics and general audience, people were, clapping, smiling, singing along, having a good time. And that, as someone that's been a film lover my whole life and knowing how the ups and downs of the film industry, the pandemic and the strikes have put a sore spot in the film industry. It's just nice to know that people have a place to escape and to enjoy characters and story, and it makes me happy for them. And I think people that love this story and love these characters will have a good time. Now, for my money, for my opinion, I didn't have a good time. I'm being honest. Now, before we get into those non-good times, I will say the stuff that works in the first one works in the second one. And what do I mean by that? Well, I think the performances by Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande are the thing that keeps this film going. Now, unfortunately, I don't think they take advantage of their chemistry as much in the second one because they are split up for most of the film, but when they are on screen together, it's electric. Like, I really enjoy the chemistry. There is something to be said about their individual narratives to come up. Like, this is more of a Ariana showcase in regards to her character, learning more life lessons, how to be good, and not that Cynthia is like forgotten about, but it is more of an Ariana. Her character's journey is the main focal point, and I thought that there were moments in both of their individual journeys that work at points, but again, when they're on screen together, they're electric, they're magnetic. I vocally, I don't need to, you guys know if you saw the first one, their vocal range is insane. Like, even though the songs, we'll talk about that later, even though the songs aren't great, they are great singing songs. They're fantastic. Other things that worked for me in this film are that it is shorter than the original. I think it's like 30 minutes shorter, but somehow it felt 30 minutes longer. But it is technically a shorter film, which is good because this film didn't work for me on a lot of levels. But ripping off the Band-Aid, I think, and I've heard people say that the second part of the story isn't as good as the first one, which remind me a lot of like when people talk about like I'm such in a Welcome to Derry mode. Like, people talk about how It Chapter 1 is the superior version of the story or the more interesting part of the story than Chapter 2, and I totally agree with that. And the same thing for me applies to this film. The second part of this story is so messy, and the way this film structures its story is so messy. We are rushing to the finish line in this film, and not only are we rushing to the finish line, which allows no scenes to breathe except for like the last 15, 20 minutes, everything else is just like boom, boom, we need to get here, we need to go there. The biggest issue I have with this film, multiple things, but one of my big issues, three main issues. Number one, I know obviously this has to tie into the Wizard of Oz, clearly. But all of those Wizard of Oz elements, Dorothy, the Cowardly Lion, Tin Man, the Crow, utterly utterly underserved. It is this is the definition of shoeing something in to appease obviously they had to stick to the book. And this is one of the things, it's beholden to the source material, and it is a detriment to this film. I didn't like anything about the Wizard of Oz elements in this film. How they, I was going to spoil something. The way that they bring certain characters to the narrative, the lack of the Dorothy of it all was just not good. Now, moving on to the second thing that bothered me with this movie. The things that didn't work for me in part one were amplified in part two. Now, those things were the animal subplot, the cruelty of the animals, which I'm an animal lover, don't get me wrong, but the way that they handle the subplot in the first one and how it ties into the second one is so underdeveloped and just like it's forgettable. The film is just like it keeps throwing it in your face, and I understand they're using it as a metaphor or an allegory to the underserved, the voiceless, as the animals of being like minorities and anywhere in the world, right? People that aren't welcome. Like I get what they're doing with the animal storyline, but it's so underserved to the overall narrative. And another thing about the first part that I don't want to say hate, but the one thing I did not like about the first part besides that subplot is I believe the character's name are Nessa, which is Elphaba's sister, and Barack, is that his name? Or Brock, the Ethan Slater character. They were so uninteresting in the first one, and the fact that the second one, they're not the main characters, but they are a very important part to the second one, and the stuff involving her sister's obsession with this dude who doesn't love her and what happens to her and what happens to him and what I did not like that storyline at all. It's laughable. It's a joke. It's an utter joke. And the first hour is basically their story, which is ridiculous. And then they're felt throughout the rest of the narrative. And it is very bad. Poorly written. I didn't like the acting, number one, but it's just so poorly written. I love Michelle Yeoh, but she is so miscast in this role. Her non-singing abilities and some of her, I don't blame her as an actress, but I just blame how the character's written. And knowing like the fact that her powers are like weather powers and the fact that people couldn't put two together when certain thing happens in this film is just ridiculous. Speaking of the non-singing, this is a musical, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. The musical elements are one of the weakest parts of this film. Like there's one song. What is it? I don't remember the name of it. It's about people being good. That's the only song that's somewhat memorable. Everything else just feels flat. It feels kind of just uninteresting, and it's just not good. For a musical to have uninteresting musical numbers is a bad thing. Tonally speaking, this film is much more serious, is much more darker, but it doesn't fit these characters to me, in my eyes. The execution's not good. Jon Chu, who I give a lot of praise to in the first one, I don't think he has a hold on the direction in this one. And I think it's not a matter of, what the director can do, is what they can't do. And again, I think the fact that they're so beholden to the source material that it really affects this film. And then I look at some of these other supporting characters, Jonathan Bailey, or, some of the other... Jeff Goldblum. It's just like these characters, these are some great actors, some talented individuals, but they're just not given that much to work with. And there's a romance in this film that I felt like was just here. This felt like I was watching, and again, I don't mean to downplay the importance that these films have on people, but I feel like I was watching Frozen, but a much lesser, unthawed out version of Frozen. It's just, I didn't like this film, man. If I were, again, I'm trying to find some positives. The ending kind of comes together because you get more screen time with Cynthia and Ariana. And again, when they're on screen together, that stuff is magical. But unfortunately, the film spends too much time on separating them. And Cynthia is just kind of just one note for a lot of the first half. It's just like, I got to prove the wizard wrong, the propaganda. And it's just like, the wizard's here and you accept this deal, which is just expectations weren't there. So I won't say I'm disappointed, but this film just did not work for me on a lot of levels. And to me, these films are critic proof. So it doesn't matter what I say. If you are in love with these characters and story, I think you're going to have a great time, which is so awesome. But I think when you look at this film as, the narrative, the story, the tone, the pacing, the musical numbers, some of the performances, it just doesn't work. Like, I think the first one, and again, I'm someone that just thought the first one was fine. The first one is way better than the second one. If I were to give this a score, I'll give it a 2.5. A 2.5 out of 5. Because I think, again, I am not going to ignore the performances by Cynthia and Ariana. Like, they're great. They are the saving grace of this film. Everything else to me just didn't work for me. And again, for me not liking it doesn't mean anything about you. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. Doesn't mean I'm a bad person. It's just this is a line in this film. Just see things differently, right? And I think that this film, for me, is a failure. Narratively, tonally, and structurally. I just think, and the shoehorn of the Wizard of Oz stuff is just really bad. So 2.5 out of 5 for me. You're going to see it if you got your tickets. Don't let me, poo-poo on your parade, but it just didn't work for me, guys. But I want to thank you all for watching this review. I want to know if you love this film. Shout it out in the comments. If you're more in line with me, let me know. Be respectful in the comments, but I didn't like it. But I'll see you all pretty soon. I have Hamlet tomorrow. I have Marty Supreme the next day, and many more things to come. Like, share, comment, consider subscribing. Hope you all stay safe out there. Again, if you love this, I love that for you. It just didn't work for me, but that's just me. You all stay safe, and I will see you soon. Take care.